Today, we're going to talk about Solita Academies, and first of all, I will give you a brief introduction on Solita Academy basics, just a 101 kind of general things. Then we will move on to the kind of beef of the day. So we will have a panel discussion between two of our Academy alumni, Sini and Jake. And then there will be some time for the questions and answers in the end of the meetup as well. Since there are so many of you, we're expecting 100 or so participants to this meetup. I would ask you to ask the questions into the chat. That way it's easier for us to keep track on all the questions that we have had. And also in the end of the meetup, we will then answer as many of them as we can, taking the time. But yeah, let's get into it then. So, some basic thing about Solita Academies. First of all, our first academy was held in 2016 here in Finland. And currently, for example, in Finland, we arrange academies twice a year, one during spring, during March, April time, and then one during fall. It usually takes place in October. Then currently, all the academies here in Finland are held in English. And usually there is 15 to 30 participants in each academy. Usually the induction part, so to say academy period, lasts something around 5 weeks. And then the hottest topic of the day, so the application periods. So these are the application periods for our fall academies here in Finland. As you might see, the Data Academy application has already been open for a couple of weeks, and the application will be open till the end of July. Dev Academy, then again, so the Academy for software developers, that application will start this Friday. So the 1st of July is the first day to apply, and it will run through July, and the application will close in the mid-August. So if you are interested in our Development Academy, keep an eye of our new job openings on our website this Friday. Then also we have some plans to arrange a Cloud Academy as well this year. We don't have the specific times for the Academy or the application times yet, but the plan is that we would have the Academy during the early winter this year still. And if you're interested in this Cloud Academy, there will be contact information in the end of the meetup where you can ask more questions, more specifically from our cloud persons. Then, who we are looking for when we have these academies. There's a large variety of people with a different kind of backgrounds and educations and work experience attending the academies, but kind of like rough idea, most of the academians that we have had have been, for example, recent or soon to be graduates. They might be junior professionals who have a couple of years, let's say 1 to 3 years of experience in their field. Or you might be a self-taught developer or data specialist when you have, for example, acquired your skills through hobbies or other activities outside of more traditional work experience. Then going more into detail, what we are looking for in a person. So first of all, potential and passion to the work that you would be doing then. Also, since the tech industry and data industry is fastly developing and changing, we also look for initiative and motivation to develop your competences throughout your career. And also, this is one very important point. So you should have understanding and some hands-on experience in your chosen field. Here I would like to go back to the 4th point. So it doesn't mean that you need to have work experience in your field, but it might be that you could have acquired the understanding and hands-on experience, for example, during your studies or hobbies or other, for example, volunteering experience. But some hands-on experience is crucial as well. And of course, interest in the field. So interest in software development or cloud services or data and integrations. And here's the good point to stop. So I say data and integrations because actually the current data academy that we are recruiting for, we also have integrations path. So in addition to data engineering, master data management, and data visualization paths, this time we also recruit for integration specialists in the data academy. Then again, what do we offer in turn? So the point that I always need to highlight the most. So if you get the position in the academy, so if you apply and you are recruited and hired into the academy, you will receive a permanent employment here at Solita. So you will be a Solita employee from day one. You will get a full salary from day one and also the same benefits, plentiful employee benefits as any other Solitan gets from the day one. The academy time is mostly full-time work, but after that, you can also switch to doing part-time. For example, if you have studies to finish or something else that requires more time to allocate to that. Then again, during the academy, there will be workshops, lectures, some hands-on learning together with the academic group, as well as other experienced Solitans there to guide you and support you and mentor you throughout the academy period. Then again, after the academy period, approximately 5 weeks of your first weeks, after that, you will then move on to the customer work, and there we have a large variety of exciting and truly impactful projects to then get your hands onto and sharpen your axe. And then if you're thinking about the time after the academy, the learning and competence development doesn't end there. And we also support you in your professional growth after the academy, because there are so many things to learn, and we want to support all of our employees to fulfill their true potential when they come to work with us. That was shortly the introduction, basics. There will be many things covered during the panel discussion as well. But now is the time for our panel discussion. We have here online Sini Pessala and Jake Reddy, who are our Academy alumni. Let's see if we can get the cameras going as well. And I will stop sharing now so that I can concentrate on you. So we have now Jake and Sini. Thank you for both of you being here. It's awesome to see you both again here. But let's get started. Maybe just first introduce yourself, tell who you are and what do you do at Solita. Maybe Sini, you can start.
Yeah, hi Pauliina and hi everyone. So I'm Sini Pessala, and at Solita I'm working as a data engineer. So basically I'm working with systems that collect and manage data and turn them into useful information for the organization to utilize.
Thank you. How about Jake? Who are you? What do you do?
Hi, yeah. So I'm Jake. I'm not Finnish, I'm British. I've lived here for about 10 years, and I'm a developer currently working in 2 projects here in Solita.
Then again, like I'm sure that this is one of the things that interests people as well quite much. So you both have been here at Solita for a while now, but what did you do before you came to Academy or before you joined Solita? So whoever, maybe Jake, you can answer first.
Yeah, so before I joined Solita, I was a chef and restaurant manager. So I had very little experience in this career path. But when COVID started, then I lost my job, and that really kickstarted my passion to change my career. And yeah, that took me to the next level to really, I did it for 8 hours a day religiously, as if it was a job, and then that took me to where I needed to be to get the academic position.
So maybe clarify there. So you are a self-taught developer.
Yes. very much so.
How about Sini? I believe that you have quite a different kind of story to tell. You're in mute.
Every time this happens. So indeed I do have a different background to Jake. So I have been studying IT and working in multilingual artificial intelligence solutions, both in Finland and abroad, for quite some time. So basically, I am familiar with the field, but my specialization was in kind of a bit of a bit on other direction. So for me, this was getting into Solita's Academy was more of a kind of like a small career change on thinking what I actually want to do and realizing that I actually want to do more hands-on work. And thus I thought that this could be a nice path for me.
Yeah, and I think this kind of highlights one of the key things when people apply to us. Like there is so many paths to end up here. Some have been studying in university, computer science, for example, or other related education. But then again, some might be doing completely different job like Jake before this, or something related to this, but then again, changing or updating skills, or maybe realizing that, okay, I have done something a bit similar, but still I would like to dig deep more into, for example, data engineering or software development, and that is the way that they then again end up here for us. And maybe in that point, I would like to know, like, how did you find your skill level, or like what did you know already before the academy compared to, for example, where you are now, or what did you expect that where you would be now? Maybe Sini, you can take that.
Yeah, so regarding like what did I know already before the academy? So I did have like a general understanding of IT due to my work and studies. And I was actually trying to study a bit on the internet for kind of like the most relevant technologies. But actually, in the academy, like in the end, I didn't really need to prep that much. Especially for the data academy, you just have the interviews, so you don't need to have an assignment. So just kind of like having the relevant background was enough for me. But actually, one of the things why I applied was that I was trying to find a workplace that was a bit more suitable for me value-wise. So I actually, even before applying, I was checking out some of the meetups and also having a remote coffee session with one of Solitans before I applied to check like is this kind of like a place where I would like to be. So that's kind of like a bit of a side drift to your original question.
No, that's okay. You said that you were planning to learn some relevant technologies or something like that before. So do you have any tips for people who would like to apply for Data Academy? Like what could be something that would be useful in the beginning?
Yeah, so I think for the Data Academy and kind of like the data engineer positions that are typically people have after the academy is like the main technology is SQL. So I think that's kind of like the best place to start. And if you then want to add some programming on top of that, then Python is I think would be a good technology to go with. And also, of course, then there's cloud, and then there's a lot of more and more things. But I think if you want to stick with one, go with SQL.
I think that's a good point. Like SQL is one of the things, and of course you learn that in academy as well. But it's good to have some basics already. But maybe we can now jump on to the Dev Academy side, and Jake, your kind of like skills and skill level. How did you find it when you started, like your skill level and what you have learned after that?
Yeah, I was just sitting here smiling to myself, thinking about how opposite my journey has been from Sini's, and that I was with listening to hearing how you was researching culture and how Solita is the company. I was just desperate to get out of being a restaurant worker and getting out of that shift working. I had a child on the way, and I just wanted more stability in my life. So yeah, I was working just to really get into a different line of culture in my life rather than culture in a company. And I didn't really know where that journey was going to take me at all. Like I'm still very much trying to find my place as a developer and like where I want to focus my energy. So that's a very different kind of path of getting to how I got here. Yeah, but and you mentioned SQL as well. That's one of the things that I cannot do SQL, which is such a different side of the fence. Listening to you say these things, where I started and self-taught myself to do the projects that started with things like working with WordPress and just getting familiar with how things work on the internet, and then that developed from being a hobby into being something that I wanted to do for a career. And then I started and just start developing and snowballed into how do these things work, and kept digging and eventually taught myself how to code and went to the full stack course that Helsinki University offers. And that's how I got the base for my application, and I ended up doing the application assignment for Solita that you have to do to get into the Dev Academy, and I did that with the knowledge that I learned from the full stack course.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point that you kind of brought up the full stack open. So because that is one of the things that kind of comes up to the recruitment process many times. So people who have, for example, been either they have been self-taught developers, or even people who go to universities or whatnot. The full stack open is a good place to start. It gives you good basics on like modern technologies as well, and it's a good like covers a lot of ground. So I think that's if some of you on the line is like thinking where should I start, that might be one to check out. So it's called Full Stack Open. It's an open like open Helsinki University's open course, I believe. At least that's why it's how it started.
Yeah, I just brought it up a moment ago just to remind myself, and the website is fullstackopen.com.
Yeah, that's a good place to start. Yeah,
a very good place.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah, well, you both kind of like gone through like how you ended up like applying here, but since you have quite a like Dev Academy and Data Academy has a bit different recruitment process, so maybe we could talk more about that. So Jake, maybe you could answer, since in Dev Academy you already mentioned this assignment that we have in recruitment. So how did you find that, having the recruitment assignment and then having interviews? How did you find that? What was your experience like?
It's really it was come at a strange point in my career changing path that I did not feel at all that I was prepared to start working as a developer. I mean, I think it was about a year, maybe 12 to 15 months after I had started self-teaching. And yeah, I mean, when you sit down and say that, yeah, I'm ready to do this, it's a very difficult process to have that conversation with yourself and say that, okay, I'm ready to start a career now. But my friend from the university in Kuopio, where I live, he sent me a link to your Data Academy, or our Data Academy now. And then I done some digging and found the Dev Academy, and that's when I was just like, well, I'll go for it. And what have I got to lose? And either way, if I didn't get in, then it was experience of coding, and having that given to me as a, hey, here's something for you to do with clear instructions and a clear goal. That's the kind of motivation that you struggle to find yourself, that you're constantly thinking, well, what's my next thing to do? How am I going to learn? To wake up every morning and find that motivation to sit down is a struggle. So when someone gives that to you and says, hey, here's something that you can do for the next month, that's great. Like, that's really a weight off my shoulder. I was like, okay, cool, now I have something to do. And I sat down for a month or a month and a half and done that project. And I didn't have great hopes, but I enjoyed the process. I learned a lot, and I ended up getting the position, which was really great. But the process itself was really fun.
It's actually funny to hear, because of course we have been talking with you quite a lot during the Dev Academy and after that even, and you never mentioned this kind of like you had a goal, that the assignment kind of set you a goal. And I think that sounds really great, because as a developer or a tech specialist, you're constantly learning and you might not know where to kind of like go. What's the next thing? What's the next technology? What should I learn? So actually using the assignment, recruitment assignment as a kind of like a goal or a path as well, a learning path as well. That sounds like nice to hear that.
Yeah, it was a really, it came at a really good time where I just finished one project and I was like, what am I going to do now? And then that popped up. I was like, yeah, I can do that for a couple of months. And then a good result came out of it.
Yeah, and that's also one thing, because different people use different time for the assignments. So as you said, you have the time and you had the motivation to actually put like a couple of months into it. But some people might just put like a week or even just a couple of weekends into it. And it kind of depends on the skill level and your time usage as well, like how much time you have. And there are people who have done it in, let's say, 20 hours. And as you said, you have used more than that. So it kind of depends on what your time is and how much you can put into it. But yeah, how about Sini? Since in Data Academy, we don't have assignments. So just like for the general audience, so in Data Academy, we have this, if you send application and based on that, you get this recording interview rec write, it's called, invitation. If that is then okay, then we will invite you in for the interview. So how did you find, Sini, that kind of process? I'm not sure if did you went through that, or was there a different kind of path?
Yes, I did went through the typical Data Academy path, and actually that was just perfect for me, since I was switching from a full-time position and trying to do a career change in the background. So it was a blessing for me that we didn't have any kind of like entrance coding snippets. So for the videos, they were so it was great that the first round was just that you can record them at your own pace. Of course, then it takes a bit of time because at least I wanted to review them, and the time was quite short. I think now there has been discussions that you have a bit more time, so you don't need to kind of cram everything into such a short amount of time. But basically that was convenient. I could do the first round of the I think 5 to 10 questions on my own pace. And then after that, there was the kind of the live interviews in Teams. So the process was, at least for me, easy and convenient. And especially during COVID times, there wasn't any need to be physically in the same place. So I could just take the interviews remotely.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like even now the COVID situation is easier, but still it's more convenient to whoever is applying, because it gives you more flexibility in your schedule if you don't need to go to the office to the interviews. But of course that's something that if there is there might be some face-to-face interviews coming up this summer, but I found it as well when I applied back in the day. It was more convenient to have the interviews through the Teams or these video interviews from the safe of your home. And you could just switch on the Teams and you would be there. But maybe in that, like you said that you had the job and then the background you were doing this career switch, did you find that you need to prepare yourself for the interview somehow, or how did you find it?
At least for me, I didn't really need any preparation. So I think the questions in the first video round, they were quite generic on kind of assessing me as a person, and then the live interviews were following the same path. So I did not feel like that there would have been a need for extra prepping, is especially for the interview. But of course, at least for me, I tried to kind of figure out different ways on understanding more about the data ecosystem in the background and the technology. So at least I was getting the feeling that I'm kind of trying to do my part on kind of making the change to the different career possible.
Yeah, and I think both of the Dev Academy and Data Academy interviews then also cover some technical points. So they might not go into deep in some technologies, but just like as you said, like okay, do you understand the basics of software development or data management or whatnot? So just we're trying to kind of scope what the applicant's technical skill level is at the moment. But of course, there is questions just like getting to know each other and the culture side of thing as well. Since we at Solita, we want to treat people, our own employees, as a people, not just resources. So we want to get to know you more, like what's your current situation, if you have studies undergoing, or for example, are you switching careers, and just making sure that our new employees are known as a person as well, and not just employees and resources. But maybe we would jump into the academy part of things. So just what should I ask? Maybe in general, just like Sini, what did you found that was like most valuable or like interesting or motivating part of the academy once you have started?
So for me, it was getting the big picture, like how everything worked and what were all the related things that I didn't know. Like as I mentioned before, I had been trying to study technology a bit in the background, and actually when the academy started, I was like, also because of my like IT background, like where's the technology? Like we are talking too much. Like where's the tech? And I was actually annoyed about that in the beginning. And then I, like, maybe after a week, I realized that actually this is material that I would not have been able to find and gather if I would have spent an extra year on kind of prepping myself for the career change. So, and basically many of the sessions that we were having, which were not tech heavy, I actually have been utilizing in my current customer projects. So it's kind of, it wasn't what I expected. It was something better.
And I think you brought up a good point that there isn't really a guide to become how to become a data engineer. And that is actually why we created the Data Academy in the first place. There is no formal education or specific path on how to become a data engineer. And as you said, like it's the big picture. You need to understand that first and then dive deeper into the technologies as well. But how about Jake? How was your Dev Academy? What was the highlights? What was the most motivating things or valuable things for you?
My overshadowing of the whole academic, the 5 to 6 weeks that we spent, was this imposter syndrome cloud floating over my head, having just changed my career, which I spent most of the time wondering to myself, when are they going to find out that I'm not actually as good as they think I am? But that slowly started to disappear as the academy went on, and it was a lot of orienting to work life rather than teaching me things that I didn't already know. It was a lot of learning how things worked professionally rather than sitting on my couch coding my own hobby projects. It was more about, this is professional life, this is how things work. Well, I learned a lot of new things like pair coding and group coding and things that I never had the opportunity to partake in when I was doing my hobbies, learning how to work in groups and understanding how Git works and code management and things like that. And it really it wasn't a whole lot of absorbing a lot of information, like, oh, I have to learn all this stuff before I start working. It was more of a kind of a soft landing into the career that I was going to take. It was very much every week kind of removed a little bit of stress from my shoulders of, okay, no, I could actually do this. And slowly over the 5 weeks, when I first got into my project team, then I was like, oh, maybe I can actually do this. And that cloud of imposter syndrome had slowly faded away. But no, it was a very enjoyable experience of learning how things work professionally within Solita and adjusting my working pattern to accommodate teams and not just working alone.
Yeah, I think I hear something around the lines like as you said, that there wasn't that much information maybe to absorb, but maybe just getting the tools on how do you work in a software project in a professional setting, and just like getting the tools to how do you learn constantly doing the work, because that what the like work here is like, the learning doesn't stop for the academic period. It's just like keeps going forever, and that's a good thing and a bad thing in a way. But just like just getting the tools in the beginning on for example, pair coding is a wonderful tool to learn from more experienced developers or similar skill level developers. There's always something new to learn from colleagues.
And asking for help, that's probably one of the biggest lessons. It took me months to learn that you can ask for help, and very quickly. If you know, there's no need to sit and sulk and think, why can't I understand this? We're a company channel of developers with over 600 people in them on our Slack, and there's always someone there willing to help, regardless of it. And it took me a while to understand that, but there are people that are willing to help, and help is very available.
And I think that's also a good point, that it might be kind of paired up with the imposter syndrome kind of thing, that you think that you shouldn't ask because, well, then they find out. But then when you ask, then you realize that maybe the people next to me don't even know the answer, but then we can figure it out together as well.
Exactly. And it's part of the fun. It's every day or if not every day, every week at least, that we sit down and think that, how do we solve this problem? And seniors above me don't know how to solve it, but we'll work at it together. And that's one of the things that draws me to coding and software, is the reward process of finding a problem and fixing it, and having that endorphin boost at the end of the project that, hey, we solved the problem, and then we can move on to the next one. And that's something that keeps driving me every week.
I think that's a really nice thing. Like, it can be sometimes a bit overwhelming to understand that how little you actually understand. But then if you have just people there with you, guiding you, and kind of pointing you to some direction at least, and with you along the way, I think it helps a lot.
Yeah, especially there's a lot of rock star culture going on, which you see it a lot on YouTube, and where there's these people that know everything, and that's a very unrealistic picture of work life. It's more of a very much team support. Within my 5-person team, it's very much of, I might know more than the next person, but he maybe knows something more than me on another subject. And it's very much about helping each other and sharing that information, which is it's very reassuring being in a company that has that network to be able to rely on.
I would actually like to see you have been like shadowed there, but what's your take on this, like kind of like the competence development, or this kind of like support system? How do you find it?
So I think one of the unexpected things at Solita that I have experienced is being in growth mindset all the time. So basically, I'm all the time feeling that I can kind of grow and improve, both in technical but also in soft skills, like how to better communicate or how to be a better consultant, and that has been kind of also like, it has definitely been like a thing that I have been enjoying a lot. And also regarding what Jake said, one of the things that when I was looking for the next thing to do, I really wanted to be in a place where I know like some things better than everyone, and everyone knows things better than I, because there's so much possibilities to learn things, and what are the best practices and how can we improve things. So that has been one of the kind of key aspects why, like, what I was looking for when I was thinking about if Solita would be a nice place to kind of spend my working hours in.
Yeah, and I think that was a good point. Like, just since most of the academians that we have are considered like juniors in the field, like kind of like connecting the imposter syndrome and what you just said about how everyone has something valuable to give for the project or whatnot. Usually, actually, the juniors have the most like top-notch technologies or information, actually, because they need to Google, and of course senior developers and data engineers do Google daily basis, but still like I think as a junior you Google more basic stuff and then you find out like, for example, recent technology versions or updates or whatnot. And I do want to point out, Jake, if you can, you have experience, you have a story on this, so maybe you can share the story that you told me earlier this week. Do you remember? Oh, yeah, there you go.
You're gonna have to remind me.
You were, oh, it was something about the authentication on the project that you had.
Right, yeah. So we had in my we started a new project in a small team. There was only 3 of us, and I was doing most of the coding work, and we had one architect. And the advice that I was getting given was of tried and tested solutions, and my first instinct was just to Google how to do authentication, and we're using Azure and app services, and some of the articles that were coming up were 6 months old, maybe less than that, brand new technology. And when I brought the issue up with some of our seniors, nobody had ever tried anything before. So one of the benefits is that we have a lot of freedom, and there was no reliant on old technology. This is tried and tested, do it this way. It was very much, that sounds good, go and try it. And that's so much great freedom that I was given within my project, just to, hey, that sounds great, go give it a go. If it doesn't work, then we have people with experience who can help you later on. And it was learning so much every day just by having that freedom to do what I feel is the best choice. And we're open to make our own mistakes, and I've definitely made some mistakes, but that's when you learn.
But that's the thing, like this, whether it's like data or software development, you learn by making mistakes, and then there are more experienced people who can help you clean up if it's a big mistake. And I think that's the most valuable thing, that there is room for mistakes, and it's not like catastrophe when something happens. Usually everything can be kind of sorted out as well. Maybe on this point, you already kind of brought up the project as well, so maybe we can switch on, like, after the academy, what happens then. So you already said, Jake, that you are in a team of 3 people, wasn't it, developer? What can you I'm not sure if you can, but can you tell me like what kind of technologies or tools you use now after the academy in the project?
Yeah, so I have 2 teams. I have a main team where I used to just do 100% of my allocation, but I got swapped over to splitting it 80-20. So it was only a 3-month long project where I got put on for 80% of my time allocation. And it was a really small team. I think there was 4 of us. There was a senior architect, a cloud architect, and 2 developers. I took lead developer role, and I had a junior underneath me who just started maybe, was it like 4 months ago, maybe less. So we really, both of us were really new, but the problem that we was trying to solve was quite easy, hence the 3-month work estimate. But it was very much that, hey, the architect's done you a schema, here's how everything's going to work, go and do it. And we just sat down with my partner, and we just started Googling and just started bringing up all the newest technologies. We used .NET 6. The latest React version was in 19. So we just started bringing in all these new technologies and just went at it. And that's when we started coming across all these technologies that nobody else has used yet. And it was just like, okay, we'll give it a go, and if it works. And most of the time it just ended up sitting down with our cloud engineer, trying to make everything work. He hadn't done anything with it either, and it was all new to us, but we managed to massage all the pieces into place, and our deadline is tomorrow.
And I will take your time during do this meetup. How about Sini? I'm not sure, what kind of project did you do after the academy? If you can share, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I started to work in a customer project straight after the academy, and in the data engineer side, we do not have typically such a like huge freedom on selecting our tools, because normally they have been decided, and it's like there's a massive amount of data, so there's kind of like a smaller set of tools that are typically possible. But yeah, so I was very content that I got to a project with 100% allocation straight away. And how my time has been going has been that I have been integrated to the team tools, which I knew a bit of SQL before. Now I knew a bunch more. We're having on call, so basically monitoring how the pipeline has been going during the night. So doing that like once a month. And what I have been actually working with is that I have been getting new data sources to our system. And the biggest thing has been that I have been kind of in charge of the data side of one of the database migrations. So that was a big thing that took a good bunch of the springtime. So that was definitely something new, and I learned a lot about our infrastructure and what all of the things and pieces that are required in order to make the systems even work. So this was kind of but yeah, regarding the getting to customer projects straight away, there were some academians who were not able to get one for like, I think maybe some needed to wait for a month or so, but they are they are coming sooner or later. It just means that then you have more time to kind of study the technologies and maybe do some certificates before you get into the customer work. So nothing to stress about.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, it depends highly on what's your background, whether you have experience or not, what kind of technologies you have used before, on whether it's something that you can start right away after the academy, or if you need to wait for a suitable project to start, for example, a month or two. So that's also a good point, that it doesn't, like, it's not a bad thing that you need to wait. It's just like we want to find the best possible like match with the new employees as well as the project that we have, so that you have the ability to take on, for example, as Jake said, like you have already been lead developer, which was actually a surprise to me, but congrats. and it's just, for us, just having the best suitable project match is a very big thing. But then again, it means that sometimes you need to wait. And as you said, if you don't have a project, you can always learn something new, whether it's a cloud certificate or something else. So.
And you're a salaried employee in any case, so you're getting paid while waiting and growing.
And then again, like if you have 1 to 2 months to learn, for example, new technology or do your certificate, that then again helps you in the very recent future to get better into the customer project, and also widens your possibilities in the future for different kind of projects as well. Maybe now we have blah, blah. That was nice. We have now talked about the customer work and something also about the learning. But is there anything else you would like to kind of like highlight, like what happens behind the scenes or alongside with the customer project part? Is there anything you would like to kind of like bring up on our culture or whatever happens during your work life? Cool. Jake, go ahead.
Oh, Cindy already unmuted her microphone. She had somewhere to go.
Yeah. Yeah, so I actually wanted to kind of build upon what Jake mentioned, that we don't really have kind of like this rock style culture in here. So as I mentioned previously about Solita's values, that for me, they feel like very Nordic values, like, or like that's kind of like how the whole company works. Like there's low hierarchy, good work-life balance. As Jake mentioned, you can basically have a lot of independence on selecting things, also freedom for making mistakes and then time for fixing them. And also the possibility that you can discuss about and challenge decisions on whether they are the right things. There is always room for open discussion. So those are the things that are like not exactly in kind of like the like Solita's core values, which are easygoing, passion, courage, and caring, but they are kind of like palpable on day-to-day setting.
Yeah, and that's the like one thing that I always want to mention, and I'm taking my moment here now, that you mentioned our values, and that's the thing, like many or all the companies in tech industry have some kind of values, but I think for us, it's just that you can see the values in day-to-day life. And I think why is that is because the values have been decided and decided by our employees. So it's not some marketing consultant who has decided that we are easygoing, caring, passionate, and courageous. So it's our employees who have decided that this is something that we can stand by. Like you can see them every day. You can be great. Yeah. Jake, go ahead. You have something to say.
Yeah, no, I'm just sitting here like nodding my head like yes, 100%. Like yeah, it is something you see every day, and there's whether it's in my team or it's just people that I meet at the office when I travel to the office, or just anybody I talk to on Slack, which is like 90% of my work life is that I live here remotely in Kuopio. So I don't travel to the offices too often. So most of my communication is done via Slack, but I've nobody's ever turned me down if I've asked for help. Within the hour, I can normally get a Teams meeting with someone that I've never met before, and he'll be explaining things to me that I had no idea about. And yeah, and the caring. I had some issues with my back at the beginning of the year, and I took some sick leave, and I think every other day I was getting messages, people asking like how things going, like, you know, is there got everything you need? My people lead, who's my how would you say that? How do you discuss a people lead?
It's like what is it? Sini, you have her.
Like basically a person who is in charge of kind of you as a person in the company. They are not necessarily in the same customer project, typically not, but they are the ones that you discuss your salary or competence, or if you're having sick leaves or vacation time. So basically a person who is having your back.
Exactly, and they do. When I mentioned that I was taking some time off because I had some health problems, he was constantly asking how I am, do I have everything that I need, like how I contacted the company health carers, and like it's not, nobody ever asked me when am I coming back, like, you know, it was just like, how are you doing, like is everything okay, like come back when you're feeling fine. And that was, it is very much a culture shock for me coming from the restaurant business, where it's just constant of you need to work and you need to work now and we need you to come back to work. And having that cushion to have someone on your back to say that how are you doing, come back when you're feeling better, you know, and not when are you coming back, you know, are you going to be back next week? That's such a relief, and just stress that you don't need, because you know that you're letting people down, that you have things that you need to do and you don't want to be on sick leave. You know, I'd rather be sitting at my desk coding. It's boring to lay in bed. But the fact that there's actually people there saying like, how are you doing, and take the time that you need, it's great.
And actually building on top of like you mentioned about culture shocks. So I think one culture shock that I had when starting at Solita, or like when starting in a project, was kind of like the independence that you can also like work on the pace that you are comfortable with, so that you can produce like your best. Sounds a bit bad, but kind of like that you can be and work in an optimal way. So I think that was one of the like things that I really like, that there is like, yeah, you work for the hours that are in your contract, and then you go home and have a well balanced free time. So that was one of the things that I definitely liked after having worked for American companies. So
yeah, that's true. And for like especially when you are a newcomer and junior in the field, you want to kind of prove yourself, but still just keeping in mind that you only need to work for 7.5 hours a day. You do not need to make longer days or whatnot. And if like you learn what you learn during that time, and then you go to relax and rest and whatnot, and then you come back later, or not later but next day, and that is perfectly fine. That is nothing else as is required from you. And of course you need to relax and rest just to learn new things as well. And since we are in a field of learning and constant development, that is very important to just switch off and make the most of your free time as well. What else? So many things. We have already discussed project work and academic time, and what else? Have you taken like participated in other like activities outside of project work or something like that? Any events or something?
I could start. So of course I have been enjoying my time in bunch of afterworks and pre-Christmas parties and such. But in addition, I have been taking kind of internal training. So there's a lot of kind of like trainings for how you are as a consultant, how to work in a team. So those have been brilliant. I'm having a couple of schedules already for the autumn to continue my self-development. And another thing is that there's a mentoring program, I think seems to be like every half a year. So I'm currently participating in it. And actually in there, or like during my time when I have now been here, I realized that I would actually like want to have a bit of a kind of more difficult goal when I'm working here. So I'm now with the help of my mentor, I'm now trying to see if I would be able to become a machine learning engineer in some future time. So kind of that's the thing that even though I had been working with artificial intelligence solutions for years, I actually was never hands-on with implementing them. I was just working with the data part. So now it's also great that in addition to just coming in and these are your roles that you are starting initially, Solita also supports you on growing even further, providing possibilities and providing support. So that has been like a super nice experience, and let's see what the outcome will be.
And that's a good point that in our field, the kind of career path, it's not always like quite linear. You might not just go, for example, in Jake's case, you might not just go from junior developer to media developer to senior developer. You might just go somewhere else, and it's just great to see that that's like possible, has been possible already early on. But how about Jake? Is there any particular like knowledge sharing sessions or events or anything other you would like to highlight?
I mean, we have the internal info sessions that anyone can host, and I have very poorly taken part in those. I always have some excuse that I'm too busy. I can't sit down and listen. But we have the internal trainings for being a self-leader and managing your workload and things like that. And I've taken part in those, and I've found them very helpful. And I didn't even realize, but I'm probably in the same mentoring group as Sini, or maybe are we in the same group or are we in a different group?
I'm not really sure. We need to check after this because I skipped the latest one due to scheduling conflicts.
Yeah, so I took part in the mentoring as well, and that's been great. You get assigned a personal mentor, and we just discuss out my goals and where I want to be in life and how I'm dealing with things. On top of having a people lead, the support is phenomenal. So I have support coming from everywhere at the moment. Yeah, but not so much taking care of info sessions and things. I've just been doing the self-learning and I guess that's my style coming from self-teaching. I spend a lot of time on my own learning.
But that's the thing, like that's the beauty of it. I think like you can participate in mentoring or info sessions or competence development groups, or you can decide to just concentrate on learning into the project. If there is, for example, when I started as a developer, I had a brand new technology in my project, so I didn't really have the bandwidth to take on that many competence development things outside of the project work. But then just learning that was enough for me as well. So and then after when I learned that, then I broadened my kind of knowledge competence development in other things as well. For example, the info sessions, which I think is one of like the key things in our culture as well, since like anyone can give or arrange an info session on whatever topic they would like. Like there have been info session, of course, on technologies in like front end or like JavaScript latest edition, or some like what does data engineer do on day to day, or then there was just a week ago there was an info session on Bride. So anyone can give an info session and arrange it and just send out the invitation to the whole company, and people come and listen and discuss the topics, and it's such a nice thing to just come together in a like mutually interested topic and just share knowledge. And
Yeah, we have so many people in the company, so many
Yeah.
people with so many passions, and people just. I think was it this week or last week? Someone was showing how to use the espresso machine on the third floor. So yeah, like
I missed
it's
that.
great.
I was supposed to go there, but I missed it, and I had a conflicting meeting. But that's just the thing. Like, we had espresso machine in the office, and there's people to tell you how to use it if you don't know how to use it. And like, yes, you can talk about tech, but then you can talk about coffee as well. Great. I think maybe we can move on to the questions that have been piling up into the chat. Let's see when I find my chat. Where's my chat? I have lost my Slack chat. There it is. Okay. Oh, so many questions. Let's see. There is a first question: is it possible to apply to Academy when one can only do part-time work? So as said in the beginning of the session, the Academy time, so the approximately 5 weeks, it's quite full on. Depending on the Academy, there might be a full day, like 6 hours sessions, hands-on or lectures or workshops. So doing part-time during the Academy, it's not recommended. Of course, you can apply and then we can see what the situation is, but it's like during the 5 first weeks, just the sake of keeping yourself together and making sure that you're doing okay, it's advisable to do like full time during the first weeks. Then there is a question about where the Academy is held, so remotely or somewhere specific, or will it be flexible? So this has, of course, during the couple of years has been like changing a lot. We have had academies that have been completely remotely, but now, for example, this spring, we had Data Academy had most of the sessions on site. And usually if it's on site in our offices, it's usually either in Helsinki office or Tampere office, because those are the biggest offices. So it depends on the academy that you are applying, and you can ask specific information or find more specific information on the job post for the specific academy. There is, as a business student, I'm eager, as a business IT student, I'm eager to get some real life working experience in addition to all those theoretical skills. Would you recommend this academy in this kind of case? Maybe. It's a bit difficult to say just that based on that short introduction, but if you would have some technical knowledge already, either in dev or data, and interest and eagerness to actually learn that specific field, I would just, as I think Jake mentioned earlier during the discussion, just you never know when you're ready before you actually apply. So just send an application and we'll see. If you have the motivation and interest in the field and some technological skills already, then we just need to dig into more on your specific skills to see. Next one is that if we have plans for Design Academy. Currently, there's no plans set for Design Academy. So our design unit is quite a bit smaller and we don't have that many junior places for there. So no plans for Design Academy currently. Okay, this is now nice. Any tips to stand out during the screening process for CVs or cover letters? I would like to ask our alumni. How do you, Sini, feel? Do you remember how did your CV look like or your cover letter, and do you have any tips?
I think in my case, I just had my typical CV, but I was kind of enhancing it a bit to the direction on kind of like, is there any data related things that I have been doing? So kind of like, for example, from my previous position, I started to get interested on working with SQL on BigQuery. So I was like, bring that up, a bit puffing it there. So basically just trying to kind of think about all of your past and your experience on the filter on like what would be relevant for this position, and mostly just being yourself. Like throw it there. It's not for you to judge if you're enough or not. That's why we have like the list of recruiters and other people who are reading through your CV and resume and deciding if you are enough. So don't like, if you're unsure, just do it and let the real people decide for yourself.
Yeah, we are very real here in recruitment. How about Jake? You are a self-taught developer. So what did you like? It seems that your CV and your cover letter stand out since you're here. So what did you do with your CV and cover letter since you don't have any experience in the field?
I feel like this is a low. Did you read my CV and cover letter?
I did.
You did. I didn't. Well, being self-taught, I really didn't feel like my cover letter or my CV held much weight. So I really gave everything I could to the assignment that we was given, and I threw some extra bells and whistles onto the assignment that was not asked for. So I did the base assignment, and then I just started piling layers up on top. Well, one layer on top, and hope that was enough to kind of like go above and beyond what everybody else was doing. So yeah, I had just finished my personal website, which is also my CV, which is kind of like maybe the two stones that I was standing on, was that the application assignment, and also then my CV was my latest project that I had just finished my website. So that was kind of, I have no idea if that's why I got picked, but that's that's what I had to stand on. So I did what I could and did my best.
Well, I think like what I remember when I was looking at your CV and whatnot, like there is ever growing like increasing number of self-taught developers, of course, applying to Solita as well. So and the trend is upwards, of course. I think for self-taught developers, of course, as you said, you have your own website. So there was basically some kind of portfolio you have been building on, and of course putting effort into the assignment that we have. But also what Sini brought up, like being yourself. I did read just today, I read your cover letter again. And I just remember you were being completely honest, like where you stand currently, like switching your careers and how COVID has affected your work. And I think that was one of the things as well, which kind of like affected things. So just keeping it honest and not hiding things. Like if you don't know something, don't hide it. Like you don't need to tell like I don't know any SQL, but you can just don't try to hide it. And also I believe that when it comes to these academic recruitments, always write a cover letter. And in the cover letter, tell about yourself, tell about your motivation. What are you interested in? Like if you have a couple of years of experience, that's great. But and you should also describe some of that. But especially if you don't have any work experience in this field, just tell like why you are in this field, why you want to apply to Solita Academy, what it is that you would like to do, what kind of technologies you are interested in, and things like that. Like the cover letter weighs a lot in academic recruitment. And CVs, in CVs, one of the most important thing is that you should list like all the work experience. If you're 40 years old and you have like years of experience in different kind of fields, of course not everything should be like listed, but for example, if you're a career switcher, don't leave out the past experience. For example, we have nurses or healthcare professionals who are trying to switch careers, and they sometimes think that the work experience that they have had in the health sector, it's not relevant to software development, which is completely opposite. So if you're a career changer, always tell about your past work experience as well, and don't just leave it out and give a completely empty CV. That's not a good thing. I think those are kind of like the main points. Cover letter is your place to shine. Just do it. And also have someone else read your CV and your cover letter when it's finished. There is so many cover letters and CVs with just silly spelling mistakes, and those can be avoided just having someone read them through. Okay, that was a long one on that, but that's very valuable information. Okay, let's see the next one. Is it possible to apply for the data visualization track while also doing some data engineering tasks? Yes, the tracks are not like set from the beginning. There is flexibility in them, and of course we will evaluate which track is most suitable for all of the candidates and all of the applicants as well. And the tracks might still change before the start as well. Then there's a long one. Do you have any tips to prepare for the resume scanning stage? Well, maybe that was one of the things that we mentioned earlier as well. But yeah, as Sini mentioned before, for example, SQL is very, very important. We don't use, for example, Excel in our data project in the data processing side. I believe not at all. But SQL from the text that are mentioned here is very, very big thing. And for example, learning some visualization tools, for example, either Power BI or Tableau would be recommended.
Yeah, so one of the things that I would like to point out is that during my academy, so I was one of the kind of like with the heaviest technological background. So kind of we also, in addition to people having, for example, like information or IT management, which was a very, very useful typical background for the Data Academy, there were also people who were having a business background but did have interests in data or had previous positions. So basically, like it really varies on what type of background and what type of interest and what type of like knowledge you have at the beginning. So you don't need to be like computer science major to kind of get to data engineering.
Yeah, that's a good point. It varies a lot what kind of background you have, and some people have more the business side of things and their strengths are there, and others have technical skills and, for example, programming when they come to data engineering path. Then is academy work available also remotely, or must one come to work in a certain city? Maybe Jake, what's your experience on this side?
Not at all. I rarely set foot into the offices. I very much work from home, and that's the lifestyle that I've chosen to pursue. It's definitely the way that I enjoy to work. But we actually just wrote a blog about it. Go check that out. Maybe someone could throw the link up. But yeah, we just posted a blog about how much I like working from home. And I think during the academy, we had one meetup, which was in the second week. And I think that was the only time I stepped foot into the Tampere office. And then after the first 6-week integration period, I went to meet my team lead in Helsinki, and that was the second time within the first 2 months. I've been to some of the offices every now and again, but very rarely.
How was Sini? I don't remember anymore. How was your academy time? Was there on-site things, or were you remotely?
Yeah, so in the beginning, it was such a kind of like a low pace with COVID, so that we had, I think, 1 to 2 like in-person days per week. But then I think on our 4th week, it changed a bit. So then the outcome was that we were doing all of the other activities remotely. But it's, at least for me, I really liked it, because then we got a kind of like a close-knit group. And we are actually, many of us are still going to lunch together if we end up to the office on the same day. But also, did we already mention that the kind of the remote possibility applies only to Finland and not any other countries?
Yeah, good point. So yeah, I think it's coming. We didn't mention it yet, but yeah. So to apply to our Finland academies dev or data, you need to have a permanent address here in Finland. So you need to live in Finland. So basically, the 2 things that you need to have enabled to have position here is that you need to have a permanent address in Finland and a Finnish bank account. So that basically means that you need to live in Finland as a permanent residence. But yes, you can, within the borders of Finland, then you can work from wherever you like. So you can either work in one of our office cities, or for example, Jake here lives in Kuopio, which doesn't have that like big office. And some people go to their summer cottages to work, for example, during the summer. But I must mention here that during the academy, there is like some workshops are more and more on site. And as it comes to all of our employees, so you need to be able to travel. So whether you live in Rovaniemi or Helsinki or where, so there might be a workshop in Tampere, and we are expecting that some people, or the people attending Academy, will then again be able to travel there and take part of the on-site workshops as well. Okay, we are actually running out of time. There is so many questions still to be answered, but I think we're gonna wrap up here. Don't be alarmed if your question isn't answered. We will send out email next week that we will cover as many of these unanswered questions that we can. And I will now just give you one more slide. Well, first of all, actually, before the slide, I would like to thank Jake, you, and Sini, you as well, for taking this time to sharing your experiences. I'm sure that it was actually valuable for me as well. There were some stories that I haven't heard, so that was kind of cool. But it was nice to have you here to talk about your experience as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun.
Thank you, and thanks for everyone who has been listening today.
Yeah, there is a lot of you on the line, and just before we kind of leave you to it, if you are interested in the academies, here are the contact information if you have any questions. So regarding Dev Academy, I'm your contact person, my email's there. Then we have Data Academy application going as well. So just a reminder, Data Academy application is already open, and Dev Academy application will start this Friday. And if you are interested in the Cloud Academy, please contact Saila Karonen and for further information on that.